Erik Horne here with Jason Reid and Bill Rhoden of Andscape, and we are talking all things football. Maybe a little bit of baseball if we, extend our Black Quarterback of the Week parameters. But first, we're going to start with the NFL. We just came off the trade deadline. We had some big moves going on in the league. I wanted to get you all's thoughts on what you thought of the trade deadline and what do we think of the NFL right now when it comes to the moves that are being made, some of the quarterbacks that are in and out of the lineup. Bill, do you have anything on top of mind that you want to get into first?
Yeah, well, I was going to defer to Dr. Reid since
Oh, of course.
he's
Oh,
our professor
well,
today. But
well, okay. Well, I'll pick up the ball. Well, I think first of all, with the trade deadline being yesterday, you talk about the big moves that were made. Obviously, Sauce Gardner going from the Jets to the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are going for it now. They're tied for the best record in the league. They think they're a Super Bowl team apparently, so they're going all in. And then Quentin Williams, the outstanding defensive lineman who goes from the Jets also to the Dallas Cowboys. The Jets clearly threw in the towel. They're 1-7, and their attitude was that they're not going anywhere this year. You look at Gardner and Williams, think, well, these are foundational cornerstone players. But if you're Aaron Glenn, the Jets' new coach, you want to build this thing your way with your guys. You're not going anywhere this year anyway. They accumulate, I believe it's another 4 first-round draft picks.
yeah,
Um, they're going to have five first-round draft picks over the next 2 years, and then with the other picks they're going to be high up there in both drafts. Presumably if they pick right, they can get some real great players. So I get why the Jets did it. For the fan base, it can't be a blast because you're throwing in the towel with all these games left. But they weren't going to go anywhere, and this will give Aaron Glenn a chance to build this team the way he wants to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised by a lot, but I must admit, I'm driving along and I hear that they trade Sauce Gardner. I'm like, what? Just as a purely football thing. I mean, it's like this guy was like one of the best defensive backs in the league, and you trade him, and I said, well, maybe Aaron Glenn doesn't see it that way, but that really, really surprised me. I still don't think anything's surprised me as much as the Michael Parsons trade, which was different. So that's kind of the bar. But yeah, the Sauce Gardner trade, and then following up with trading Quentin to Dallas. I guess to your point, man, I'm thinking they're basically just crapping on the fan base. They're saying, listen, we know this is NFL. You guys are going to come, and whether you come or not, we're still going to make money. So it doesn't really matter. They're probably, I guess we can go around the league. They're probably more compelling trades, but just as a shock value, getting rid of. So then another thing I think about too, man. I guess we all talk about that sometimes. Is just we look at these players as almost like cartoon figures, whether they get fired or not. We don't really think about it. But your Sauce Gardner, you've been in New York, and then you wake up, okay, I'm going to Indianapolis. I don't know what the brother's lifestyle was like and anything like that, but you kind of get into your groove in New York, and we've all been to Indianapolis, which is a fine city, but it ain't New York. You know, uh, Dallas maybe a little a little better. So I always think about that, man. And I don't know. I don't think those guys were married, but I always think about that too. If you're married, you got little kids, and here you are in one city, and it's okay. Listen, you're going to spend the next 8 months in this city. So I always think about that too, in addition to just the whole thing of competitively what this means.
Well, I think about it like this too. Like, if you're going to trade me, I want to be traded to a team that obviously has a chance to do something, which he got. He's not toiling in just obscurity with the
Right.
Jets and whatever they got going on. They're racing to the bottom along with my New Orleans Saints. And
Right.
then it's not like they're trading him to Green Bay in the winter or Chicago in the winter. He gets to play indoors now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like if I'm gonna be in a town that is not as live as New York, I want to at least be somewhere where I'm gonna be relatively comfortable while I'm playing my trade. maybe he gets a deal with St. Elmo's for the cocktail sauce. They get a sauce thing going on or something. Literally the only restaurant I know in
how many
Indianapolis.
times can you do that before that
Yeah.
gets old? Yeah. Let's go to St. Elmo's again.
Well, look, maybe Sauce needs to lock in on football anyway, man. Maybe he's going to lock in all the way. Like, I wanted to talk a little bit, just briefly, about my Saints because this season has been fascinating. Not from a football standpoint. I've not watched a single snap of Saints football, but the race to the bottom, man. And they're actually slowly doing the right things. In a sense, they traded Rashid Shaheed to Seattle, who was one of their deep threat guys.
The great drive. That's a great trade, by the way. I think for Seattle.
Yeah, great trade for Seattle. He's a real speedster, but you simultaneously get some capital back while also making yourself a little bit worse. But at the same time, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you got this new quarterback, this Tyler Shuck guy, and you're trying to evaluate him, but then you take away one of his weapons. So it's kind of like. It to me, it just looks like you're just spinning your wheels. This guy Shuck, he's not the answer. I don't know what this quarterback class is going to look like coming up, but accumulate as many picks as you can in the future. I'm for that. I think the Saints did that. The Jets did that really well. So I think the success for them obviously isn't going to be on the field right now. It's going to be in the next couple of drafts, which I'm okay with, as long as they give Aaron Glenn the opportunity to actually coach, it beyond this year.
Arch Manning coming home to New Orleans, brother. Arch Manning's coming home to New Orleans.
Let me tell you.
Just be prepared. That's all I'll say. I'll say my gloating for later. But just and I didn't really think about it, Eric, till you mentioned it. New Orleans, you're right. The quarterback of the future is not on that team. He's in Austin, Texas.
He's in Austin, Texas. Or maybe he's in, Columbia, South Carolina, or somewhere like that, Lenore Sellers. But I can't imagine that the way that we've seen the Manning family operate and where they kind of, dictate where they want their guys to be, whether it's in the pro or collegiate level, I can't imagine they would want him to play for the New Orleans Saints. I just can't. I know it's a New Orleans family, and we're getting way off track. This is not an Andscape topic, but I feel like they would not put that pressure on that kid. Like, they didn't want him in the end. I just don't think they would do that to him. They wouldn't want him to follow up with Archie like that.
Well, it could be an Andscape. It could be an Andscape topic when you factor in that Bill Rhoden thinks he's going to be a top 5 draft pick this year. So from that standpoint, it is an Andscape topic.
The logic, that's what Bill said. Y'all are being too logical about this.
Well, that's last thing. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that trade. And this has nothing to do with the trade, but what do you, I was just talking about the lifestyle change. What do you think, and Eric, you're from New Orleans, what about going from New Orleans to Seattle? I mean, I like Seattle a lot, but that's a pretty major move. You're going across 2 time zones. You're going from New Orleans, which is very hip and very super Southern, very culturally rich, to Seattle, which is fine, but it ain't the same vibe as a thing. Again, what do y'all think about that? I mean, I'm just thinking not so much football, but just lifestyle change.
He's going to be eating a lot cleaner. I know that. he might find a few more, outdoor activities because the humidity is not going to be on his neck. But I don't know a lot about Seattle, to be honest with you. I know he's going to enjoy his football more because he's going to be playing for a team that's worth a damn. I know that for sure. Yeah. So I'm happy for the brother, man. I'm happy for him. I wish they would have did more, honestly, to give some more younger guys some opportunity and find guys like Alvin Kamara and give them a chance to go win somewhere. But we're in the race for Fernando Mendoza right now, man. We're not worried about wins, But
yeah, it's pretty amazing. Why, again, I guess these teams are making so much money that they can do kind of anything, knowing that there are no real consequences. Now, on the other hand, you look at Philadelphia, man, they just keep getting better. Philadelphia just keeps getting better. They've got what they got the defensive back from Baltimore, Jr.
Yeah, they get
Alexander.
Alexander. They get Michael
Uh,
Carter the second.
yeah, I
They
mean,
also picked up Jalen Phillips from Miami, who's a good pass rusher.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they keep tooling up, and if you're a Philly fan, you can't be anything but happy with what they got going on right now.
No.
They're just adding bodies and depth for the playoff run.
Well, Howie Roseman is, I mean, the Eagles GM, he's considered the gold standard in the NFL. I mean, he's considered the best GM, and in terms of roster building, he's done an outstanding job. Obviously, I mean, they've played in a couple Super Bowls here recently. They've won one. They're stacked defensively with young players. Um, the thing about the NFL is that you have guys who can have very short windows in terms of being able to be at the top of their games because of how physical the game is, how demanding it is, how brutal it is on a guy's body. So you make the best moves you can, and you try to get young, talented players in. You try to keep you try to manage your salary cap in a way where you can be competitive for several years. And that he's a very good GM. There's no doubt about that.
yeah. Speaking of front office diversity, what y'all think of? And so, what do you think of Miami jettisoning Chris Greer? Not the head coach, but Chris Greer ahead of the trade deadline.
Yeah,
Reportedly mutual parting ways.
Well, yeah, right.
well, it
Let's
it,
let
it was
Jason
mutual.
speak to it.
It was mutual in as much as like they were like, okay, you have to go now.
Right,
The owner wanted him out. This whole thing it
right.
hasn't worked out. Chris has been there a long time.
A long time.
Um, he was there with Brian Flores, and that situation deteriorated, and their relationship deteriorated, and then they bring in Mike McDaniel, and that started out well, but it's not working now. So the whole mutual thing, I would imagine that was more of, okay, we're going to part ways. I'm sure that I would imagine, not that I'm sure, I'm going to imagine that they're paying out his contract for the time remaining, and he's leaving quietly. He's not bashing anybody. And Chris, his father was a long time player personnel guy with the New England Patriots. His brother has been in the NHL, so he knows how this works. But yeah, that whole mutual thing, it's mutual in as much as they don't want him anymore, and he's going to go quietly.
Right. They said there's no gun to your head, but the gun is on the table. So, uh, yeah. Other than that, I guess, we talk about the trade deadline. I'm thinking, to me, what were the most shocking trades that I can remember? And I guess for me, it's still the whole thing with Dallas, when Herschel Walker got traded to the Minnesota Vikings for like, what did they get? They got like an 18-player multi-draft pick, which essentially began the Dallas Cowboys dynasty. Nothing that happened here matches that. I was even thinking of Sauce Gardner going to Indianapolis. Is this a game changer? I mean, I know Indianapolis is really good. Maybe after they saw Aaron Rodgers light them up, maybe they figured we got to get better. But is that a game changer? Is the Jets trade to Dallas? Is that a game changer?
Well,
I don't think so.
Indianapolis is definitely going for it because Sauce Gardner he's considered, not he's considered, he's an all pro. He's an elite cover corner. And so is it a game changer? I mean, we'll find out come the playoffs, because you get him with the thought being that you're going to have to guard the best receivers in the NFL in the playoffs. That, assuming the Chiefs make it, you're going to be guarding a Rashee Rice at some point. Assuming the Broncos make it, assuming the Bills make it. So yeah, I mean, it could be a game changer. Now, that Herschel Walker trade, I believe the Cowboys, when it all was said and done, they wound up getting like something like 5 ones and like a 2 and a 3. So it's not to that level, obviously, but it's clearly a major trade.
Right, right. The Marshall Faulk trade, and that affected you, right, Eric? Because he got traded. Marshall Faulk got traded. Well, no. to St. Louis, to the Rams.
Yeah, he went from Indianapolis to the
Right.
Rams, but he's a New Orleans guy. But
Yeah.
the trades that I always come to mind for me are the ones that are kind of like draft related, where you're giving up a bunch of stuff to move up in the draft or something like that, and how it shapes not so much the in season stuff, but how it shapes the future. You're taking a big swing on a guy like the Saints trading basically their entire draft for Ricky Williams and screwing up the next 3-4 years of their run. Those are the ones that stick out to me because even when that happened at the time, I was like, oh my god. And I guess I was a kid. I got excited because the name Ricky Williams was exciting, but I didn't have the context of, oh, you gave up all of this. Like, we don't
Right.
have anything else.
Right.
Like, cool, we got Ricky Williams, but what else? What are we gonna put around him? He's gonna get the hell beat out of him, and then
Yeah.
that sets you back for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that I always kind of remember is what did you give up to move up? What did you sacrifice? Like the Chicago Bears trade where they gave up all this to move up to get Trubisky. It wasn't that the same draft as Mahomes. I think that was
Yeah.
the 17 draft. It's
It
like
was, yeah.
that's franchise altering. Like, that sets you
Yeah.
back. They're still rebuilding from that. That's
Right.
a move that shook up the league.
Right.
So they could have stayed put and had a Mahomes or even a Deshaun Watson would have been a better pick in that draft.
And
So
that was another one, right? Deshaun, the trade from Houston to Cleveland, which Cleveland may never they may never recover from that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they may never recover from that trade. Speaking of that, I guess if we are we still packing our bags for the Shedeur Sanders debut? Uh, I'd circle Thanksgiving.
well, it depends on where you're packing your bags for, because we might be packing our bags for 2026 when he's playing for the New Orleans Saints. Like I mean, we might not be packing our bags for Cleveland anymore, Bill, because it looks like as you stated to me earlier this week, Camelot has fallen, and Camelot being the entire Sanders ecosystem. I'm looking at these scores from the last 2 weeks with Colorado giving up 53 and 52 in consecutive weeks to Utah and Arizona after scoring an upset win against Iowa State. They've fallen off a cliff. So
Yeah.
so what do we think about the Sanders family right now? I mean, Deion seems like he's down bad with his program, going up against West Virginia this weekend on the road.
They're equally as
Morgantown's got
bad. I think they're equally as bad. I think West Virginia is 1-5, Colorado's 1-5. They're both so they're equally terrible. I guess what may switch it is that it's on the road. So yeah, I mean, I feel we've talked about this a lot. I think that was a wonderful period in time. I'm writing about it. That period of time when you had Deion going to Jackson State and those of us went to HBCUs. This is great. He's going to HBCUs and all the attention and Travis Hunter is a top five-star comes to HBCU. That's great. And then we go to Colorado and all that. I think it was a moment in time, which I believe is over. And I just feel bad for Deion, man. I mean, just his health, because we all know, man. I mean, your health is all you got, and he's got to be under a lot of pressure. And I give him credit. I think on our last roundtable, I thought there was a part of me thought that after Shedeur left and Travis, Deion said, "You know what? I'm out of here." But he clearly seems to be committed to finish what he started, and I just hope it does not take a too severe a toll on his health. But yeah, I think that period of time is over. I mean, Jay Reid, you could talk about this. I mean, remember when Travis got drafted, and it was again it was a nice show in college. It was a nice thing in college, playing both ways. And I'm sure we talked about it, man. There are a lot of great young wide receivers, and there are a lot of great young defensive backs. Is Travis that great on either end of the ball? So I think I don't know what do you think? Then we found he maybe out for the season.
I mean, the thing that always concerned me about it was when Deion did it with the Cowboys, it was later in his career. And the adjustment there's no doubt that Travis Hunter is an elite athlete. Like, just so you know, there's no question about that. But I always thought to myself, and I talked to a couple of NFL coaches about it, and both of the guys I talked to were very candid with me on background. They were like, look, the stuff he's going to have to learn playing corner, and then the stuff he's going to have to do playing receiver, even if they limit packages for him that limits his snap count, like there's still time that you pick up things in the wide receiver room and in the corner room and then on the field in practice. And just your mindset when you're at the facility and away from this facility about what are my responsibilities within the game plan this week. It's a lot to put on a kid who, I mean, he came out after his junior year, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a lot to put on someone who's transitioning to the NFL, no matter how talented you are. And also, the reality of it is, the more snaps that you're on the field and not taking a break when the offense is on the field or when the defense is on the field, you're just exposing yourself to more wear and tear. So, look, I'm not saying it won't work out, but just from talking to people in the league, there were people that, you know what, this is risky what they're trying to do.
yeah. That was a good selling point. Again, it was a selling point. I remember the GM said that he's going to be transitional. He's going to change something, some grand statement. He's going to change, and I just think of if I'm a wide receiver, a really good wide receiver, and so this guy's gonna come in here and say, is this guy playing part-time better than me? Or if I'm a defensive back and I'm hungry, remember, I'm hungry. This is my livelihood, and I'm saying, this guy, is he playing part-time? Is he better than me? So you never know. And then of course, Shedeur, we began to get sobered up at that on draft day. you know, the whole thing like that, man, this guy, because we've talked about this numerous times. We are all, particularly I'll speak for me, we are so invested in that story, in that Camelot story, that in retrospect, we probably made Shedeur bigger and better than in reality he really was. So
But Bill, we weren't the only ones. There were lots of people in NFL media that were high on Shedeur. And only when it got deeper and deeper into the process and we got closer to draft time did, the tea leaves start to show that this dude wasn't held in as high esteem as we thought he was. So I don't think it was all just us and the hype. I think that everybody kind of drank the Kool-Aid, and then the tape evaluators had obviously a different perspective on it. And then you still got the fans selling Shedeur effing Sanders shirts. I mean,
yeah,
people were bought in.
I still believe in that. Although I was surprised, I didn't read. Did you know that, Jay? I didn't know that he had a back injury when he showed up. When he showed up in Boulder to surprise his dad, and he
No,
said,
I didn't know that.
"I didn't know he had a back injury."
I didn't know that either. Which can also explain, some things about in terms of, I mean, I don't know how bad the injury is, but if you're limited in practice, they're not going to turn over the offense to you when you're limited in practice. So, I don't know how that factored into Stefanski's decision making about, letting Dylan Gabriel have a longer leash possibly. I mean, I think Stefanski was committed to giving Dylan Gabriel a lot of a significant opportunity. I mean, they picked him in the third round. They picked him ahead of Shedeur. But all I'm trying to say is I don't know if the back situation contributed to, his standing right now within the offense.
Is this kind of get back to the draft for a minute or draft picks in a minute? Is this coming draft? I think Jay Reid, you mentioned these drafts. You trade a player, getting 2 first round, or the Jets, and they could get 5. Is this draft coming up? How strong is this upcoming draft for quarterbacks?
I mean, that's always the question. The draft prognosticators in the media have their view, obviously, but when you talk to people in the NFL, like a lot of times uh, the opinions don't line up. And, with all due respect to the media people who are draft prognosticators, like these people in the NFL, this is what they do for a living. They're immersed in it. A lot of them have played the game. So like they're going to see things that people who, are out on the outside of it who haven't had that experience aren't going to see. And, I always go back to every time I get asked that question, like on radio shows or whatever, I always go back to 2017, as a perfect example of this. Like no one had Patrick Mahomes as being this successful quarterback. I mean, when I say no one, I'm talking about the people who are the draft prognosticators. I mean, he got ripped for being the Chiefs got ripped for trading up to number 10 to get him, and he wasn't, he didn't have footwork, and he played at Texas Tech, which they ran that gimmick, run and shoot type stuff. So is it strong? We won't know until 5 years down the road at least. But like this other draft, okay, where Caleb Williams and Daniels, and Penix, and May. I mean, that looks like, it looks like that was a pretty good draft for quarterbacks. So, you just don't know. You got to wait to see how it plays out.
All right, guys, we got a few minutes left. We wanted to make sure we got to our black quarterbacks of the week. Who wants to go first? I can go first. Would you like for me to go first?
Why don't you go first? I know what you're going to say.
Who do you think I'm going to say?
Penix.
Nope. Okay. My black quarterback of the week is Mr. Jacoby Brissett with Arizona. Sorry if I took anybody's, but look, the man started the last 3 games for Arizona. He hasn't, he's only won one of the 3, beat up against Dallas, who hasn't beat up against Dallas this year. But in every game that he started, he's thrown for more yards than Kyler Murray's thrown for in any game this year. He's limited his turnovers. And I always go back to something that we talk about. The real progress in black quarterbacking is when you can be a consistent backup for a long time in the league. And Jacoby Brissett is becoming one of those guys that we're never going to forget as being, a guy that's reliable, pocket passer who kind of broke the stereotype of having to be the black quarterback that scrambles and runs and uses his legs. And he's carved out a good career. And I'm happy for him and his success. And I hope he keeps getting to do it for years to come. So that's it. Jacoby Brissett. That's my guy of the week. Since Spencer Rattler's done. So what we got?
Bill, can I go next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, and to me, it's just a very obvious pick, and Erik's pick was good, but Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson comes back and just reminds us right off the bat of why he is a guy who should probably be a 3-time MVP now, not a 2-time MVP. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see the talent that he has and how that team is just so different when he's in there. And look, I know they got off to a bad start when he was playing, but I still believe that with him being back, the Ravens have a chance to get this thing turned around and actually get to the playoffs. I'm not saying they definitely will because they dug a huge hole, but with Lamar Jackson on the field, anything is possible.
Yeah. Well, you guys have kind of left me with no. I'm going to go with to the college level, HBCU level, Andrew Bodie at Alabama State.
Yes.
We're still waiting for the next Steve McNair, and I'm not saying that Andrew Bodie is that, but I'm beginning to even hear some talk from scouts. Not I talk to scouts, but they're mentioning this kid. And I'm pulling for him. Oh, and if we're going to go to NFL, I'll go to my man with the Carolina Panthers. I'm pulling for him. Bryce Young. Bryce Young went to Green Bay and had a very solid performance. I like him. I met him for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and we're pretty mercenary sports writers, but you do stumble upon some people you meet.
Yeah,
I'm pulling for this guy, and I was really happy to see Bryce Young do well. So he would be my NFL black quarterback of the week.
All great picks. I'm here for it, guys. I'm looking forward to this weekend. We're one step closer to the Shedeur Summit. So Pack up, Bill. You know, let's get.
I'm ready. I'm ready. The
We're
Camelot is over.
inching closer to Thanksgiving. But thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure to check us out on Andscape.com and YouTube on our YouTube channel. And we will see you again next week.